So, my wife and I had our twins, and it was about 34 weeks, so they're a little bit premature. And we did notice early on there were some development delays with them. So, in particular, our son just wasn't necessarily, doing everything in the crib and doing some of the movement that we might like to see. And my wife, with her, postmasters in counseling, she was kind of aware and cognizant of it, and they had every advantage. They went to great preschools. They had wonderful teachers, but you used to work with them a little bit on the letters, and you saw some challenges there.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So he couldn't remember the letter Y.
Yeah, and those kind of observations, certainly kind of made us worried, if you will. So again, great teachers as they kind of went into preschool, and then as they went into a private Catholic school. But again, what we saw was they're kind of falling behind a little bit, and it seemed like they were really bright, but they were just challenged in certain ways.
I would say that we were a mixture of excitement because this was something that we had not heard of before. Even after like doing a lot of research on dyslexia, like there's just not that I had not even heard of this. And one of my friends lives in Gainesville, and she was familiar with the Morris Center in Gainesville, actually. So I called her and I was like, "What do you think?" She's like, "Oh, I've heard great things about it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So we were excited, but also kind of nervous because we pulled them out of school. And so they were going to miss school, and they were a little bit nervous about coming here. And we were like the first people to come to the Ponte Vedra location.
Yeah, I mean, we were certainly, there was a lot of trepidation because, we weren't sure what was going to happen. And, we met with the staff and we kind of understood the program, and it was certainly different than what we had experienced before. And allegedly, both of our kids were getting all the help that they were supposed to have. But, to be candid, our son basically could not read or write.
Honestly, from literally the first day that they came here, because we were just supposed to come for testing and then we were going to go home. They came in and they were a little bit scared, but then as soon as they met with the staff and started doing the testing, they're like, "See you later. We don't we don't need you anymore. We're staying the whole day." I was like, "Okay." So honestly, we kind of prepared them, but I mean, it was really fun. Like it's different than school. They love doing the OT stuff. Everyone who works here is amazing. I mean, you guys could not be better.
Well, I think your kids are your most important, people in the world to you, right? So you want to do everything you can to help them be successful, and certainly an investment. But for us, it's been a really, really wise investment. And I'm
You can't make me cry, okay? Don't make me cry. You lost your bet also. Just so you
yeah. Again, let's do this room. Something about this room.
She's like, "Don't cry, daddy." Now you lost your bet.
I mean, for us, we did a lot of research before we came, but we recognized our kids really needed help. They were struggling in school, and the gap was widening, and the programs that they're trying weren't working. So for us, it was really a no-brainer. It's a substantial investment, but you want to make that investment in your kids to give them every chance to be successful. And our kids were going down a path where it would have been a struggle, I think, for our son to really get through high school and get through college. And perhaps even more importantly, his confidence was just being destroyed. So for them both to be able to come here, have a wonderful experience that they did, and see the progress that they've made, I would just encourage every parent, just consider it very seriously. Do what's in your best interest, but recognize there are programs that are research based like this one that really can work and change lives. So what we discovered with the Morris Center is, all the instruction here was one-on-one in person, and it's 50 minutes and it's intense. And what we discovered is, when we dropped them off in the morning, they were excited. They were thrilled about the day.
Yeah. They loved coming here actually, and they loved not having homework in the afternoon. So afternoons they would just go home and play outside and be with their friends. And as they progressed through the program, like their confidence just kept building and building. They met some friends here that they actually still talk to and connected with. So just meeting with the other moms in the program also, and having like get-togethers with some of the other children who were here was helpful.
And when the kids see progress like that, it
Yeah,
just
so
builds on itself. So just as before, there was unfortunately kind of that downward spiral of struggling at school, difficult following, losing confidence, not wanting to read in class. All those things really reversed themselves here as they started to kind of work through that program and see the results for themselves. And it gave them a lot of confidence and was very inspiring to both of us.
yes.
So with our kids, certainly in the classroom is where we saw some of the biggest challenges. But with our son in particular, we also saw, some attention type issues and some hyperactivity and some unusual behavior. At times, for example, things like fishing really provided sort of that burst of activity and that sort of excitement type piece. Yet, when he was at home and we give him directions, multi-step directions, just couldn't follow them, right? Couldn't remember to do 2 or 3 things at once. So with our son, that was some of what we saw with him.
Also, we hit the COVID year, so we did homeschooling through the school and on Zoom. And that was really an eye opening experience because I was like, what are you doing? You were like walking around and then you're laying on your desk. And then it was interesting when we came here and talked to the OTs, and they talked about how you have vestibular challenges, which I had no idea about, even having worked in classrooms for a lot of years, that is a sign of learning issues. Because I was like, is he tired? Like, what's going on? And so that was one of the other things that we noticed. And also the entire Zoom situation, like having to focus was not great for him.
And then while at the Morris Center, one thing that was amazing is, despite the fact our son had been diagnosed by an educational psychologist who had ruled out ADHD, what we discovered is with those one-on-one sessions, particularly 50 minutes at a time, our son was just absolutely worn out by 11, 12 o'clock, just a few hours in. And with their recommendation, we did put him on ADHD medicine. And that too was a game changer. It allowed him to really focus. And then his progress here at the Morris Center really, propelled from there. And again, that was something that we would have never seen if we did not bring him here.
We talked about like the self-esteem kind of issues that would come from just learning disorder not otherwise specified. And I knew that it was like a DSM diagnosis, but they didn't really cover I mean, there's a lot to cover. Like, there's a whole gamut of dyslexia and ADHD stuff. We learned more about ADHD than dyslexia. Dyslexia was not covered very much. I saw it working in the school system. I obviously saw a lot of kids with dyslexia, but pretty much the party line in schools is work around it, make accommodations. Not, I mean, it's generally thought that you cannot fix dyslexia, cure dyslexia. You just kind of make accommodations. And even with all the accommodations that our child was getting, because he was getting a lot, like one-on-one help in the classroom. And I mean, he's a super smart kid and he was getting one-on-one help in the classroom. Even with those accommodations, he was not doing that great. So, and also as you get older in the school system, you don't necessarily want a teacher sitting next to you at your desk helping you.
Yeah, I mean, building on that idea of accommodations, the Morris Center was the first group that we really worked with that said, look, let's figure out how to conquer the dyslexia. Because to your point, the educational psychologist, who was very talented and had dyslexia himself, was really focused on helping accommodate around it. And similarly, the school, they were going through programs, but look, son and daughter are just probably going to be in the lowest reading class, but we're do the best we can with them. And that's just for us, I think, was kind of an unacceptable approach and response, particularly with two intellectually gifted kids who are 8 years old. It just seemed like there could be something better. With all the research and all the science out there, than trying to accommodate around it. and rule out, potentially college or particular careers. And that for us was incredibly important in making the decision to come here.
I would say the most valuable aspect for both of them, honestly, was the boost in self esteem that they got. I mean, our daughter's self esteem was pretty good, but she also had underlying anxiety that they identified it better here than even we did. And I have no anxiety. I mean, I worked as a school counselor. So she did a really good job of like hiding a lot of that stuff. But when you're working one on one with people for an hour, it's it's hard to hide that kind of stuff. So that helped her with her anxiety situation that we didn't even know about. And then the confidence of our son just like cannot be understated. Kids were starting to be mean to him at school and saying that he was dumb, and he was just having such a hard time at school. And then he came here and he was able to do all the things that he knew he should be able to do from the beginning. So just learning, going through the program, working with the people here, and then just learning how to read and understanding that it wasn't his fault that he couldn't do it. And I mean, recognizing all the different sounds that are in the English language that neither of them had. They didn't even have all of the sounds. Just even from the first day when they found that out, it was helpful.
So, every day at dinner, we would kind of say, hey, what went on today at the Morris Center? And it was interesting because, again, it was very different than what we had experienced before. And, early on, they were learning all sorts of things that I knew nothing about in terms of how lips move and how tongues move. But as they got further into the program, it was very clear it was a very organized and structured approach. And, they would have these, 50-minute sessions, and they would touch on, a lot of the core fundamentals of what they're looking to build. And, undoubtedly one of his favorite things was the OT gym.
Oh my gosh.
So occupational therapy was incredibly important, both for our son and our daughter, but they absolutely, loved that aspect of it. And it also helped break up that day such that, you did a couple academic sessions, and you did an OT session, and you had a couple more academic ones. But when they came home, they were still energized and ready to go.
Yeah, they loved it. And it was funny that OT would be such a critical part. It was something that we hadn't really thought about because they played sports, they danced, they could ride bikes, they could roller skate, they could do all of those things. So we were like, they're totally fine. We probably might not even need OT. But then once they got here and they started doing OT, they were better at sports. They were faster at sports. He even went back to play football, and his coach was like, what happened to this kid? Because he's like running and jumping, and he's like perfectly in the lines. He knows exactly where his body is at all times. I'm like, it's because of the Morris Center.
And the funny thing about the OT gym is he loved it so much that even when he was done with the intensive program, he said repeatedly, can we just come back and can I do some OT? Because he built a wonderful relationship with some of the instructors here, really enjoyed the OT gym. So he's done that, as well as he's volunteered here during the summer in order to get his volunteering hours. And we're fortunate that we live just, a small distance from here. He's built great relationships with students as well as some of the instructors who are here.
My hopes for the future of my children is that my hopes for the future of my children is that they can go out and do whatever they want to do. If they want to be surgeons, they can do that now because they went to the Morris Center. If he wants to be a lawyer, he talked about wanting to be a lawyer from the time he was little. I think that he could go to law school and be a lawyer, and that would not have been possible without the Morris Center.
Yeah, I mean, you want your kid to be able to achieve their dreams. And to your point, right, a lot of things were probably off the table before coming to the Morris Center. We even got counsel, maybe we just need to kind of focus him a little bit more on math or engineering or that type of thing. And, when you've got a kid who says, hey, he'd love to be a lawyer, and his best friend, his father is a lawyer, and I work in the sports industry where there's a lot of lawyers, and you start talking about taking careers off the table at 8. That's just, that's very sad. So what we've been able to do here and what the Moore Center has really been able to do for our kids is put all those options on the table such that they can achieve their dreams and they can get into the high schools, they can get into the colleges, and they can do whatever they want to do because ultimately it's their lives. And we're just trying to be helpful and supportive to them and opening up every option that's out there.